Hi, welcome to Culture Shot. Today, most companies are proclaiming to want a high-performance culture. We get asked about this all the time. Help us build a high-performance culture, one where people are committed and they deliver, etc. And that's an obvious thing to want, considering the commercial imperative, etc. But what's quite interesting is when you start to look at the roadblocks that are in the way, how common they are for there to be a simple philosophical roadblock to prevent organizations from getting to that high performance. Let me explain with a little bit of a metaphor. I have a 7-year-old daughter who's turned out to be really good at swimming. Who'd have known? She was not that great at netball, not particularly interested at hockey, but put her in the pool and she tends to get out in front and very often wins the races. I mean, if she doesn't win, she comes second, right? Dad brag. But she's turned out to be really, really good at this. And as a result, she really tries her heart out when she gets in there. That's a fairly obvious thing, I suppose. But when you look at the other children that are in the pool, I mean, some of them are competing, some of them are out there really, really going for it. Some of them are just quite happy to pedal amongst the back markers and just, complete what's asked of them, i.e. get in the water and get to the other end. And I think the catalyst for them competing seems to be a belief that they can actually win. In other words, my daughter didn't really think she could win at netball, so it was just not really her thing to try out. But at swimming, give her that bit between her teeth and off she goes. Now, she's the kind of person who can be moved to a very high level of engagement, I believe, simply because she believes there's something in it for her if she actually tries out. If she gives it some effort, she might get somewhere with it. Whereas a lot of these other children in that particular instance aren't geared for high performance in that area because they don't think they can. And this seems to be something, I think, metaphorically, that applies quite well to a lot of organizations. I like to speak about sort of the philosophy of organizations, the way it transpires, the way it demonstrates itself through the policies and the processes and the internal language. I think some of that stuff is very revealing, that we think we want a high-performance culture, but philosophically we are gearing completely against that. And through the language and through the policies, through the restrictions, through the fact that we say, stop and think before you do anything, ask me for permission before you make a decision, etc., we are actually gearing people to lean away from high performance simply because what we're saying through that language is that we don't believe we can win. And if we don't believe we can win, they don't believe we can win either. They're quite happy to pedal amongst the back markers. Now, when you see organizations that are geared for high performance, philosophically, their policies, their processes, they all enable that. They use enabling language. They're all driven to that. The leadership at the top of the organization is inspirational and it's an enabling leadership. It's a very different sort of thing. And those sorts of organizations are ones that believe they can win. And as a result of that, the people who join believe they can win too. They almost get swept along with the positivity, the sense of possibility. That's the big inhibitor or the big driver of a high-performance culture. If you haven't got that, that's probably the one thing you need to get over. I'm sure you've hired smart people. I'm sure the rest of it's in place for you to achieve that. But you're just telling them that you can't go for gold, and so they don't. Have a great week.